Shawn Ellington, Murder Nova himself, Keith Haney, and the natural Randy Couture, all joining us today on the Wes Buck Show. JT, let's do this thing. Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport. Drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. Hope you're doing well out there. As always, remember, we've got a goal of 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so click that like button, click subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell so you get notified anytime we drop a new episode. Welcome to the show, guys. We've got a hell of a lineup for you today. I honestly was curious if we would be able to make this happen, but after the news broke on Sunday that Randy Couture, six-time UFC champion, Hall of Famer, movie star, would be making the move into pro mod drag racing, we made it our mission to connect with this guy and see what we could do to get him on the show and have a conversation with him here with you guys today. So I'm excited to do that. We also have, of course, Keith Haney and Shawn Murder Nova Ellington, fresh off a big weekend at Extreme Raceway Park for the Midwest Drag Racing Series season opener. I got to go out there a little bit myself and hang out with all of the boys and girls of the Midwest Drag Racing Series, and what a great time we had. It's still one of my favorite tracks in the country. If you haven't been to Extreme Raceway Park outside Dallas, Texas, you need to add it to your bucket list, because it's a beautiful, nearly all concrete facility that it just reminds you of how special these Saturday night drag strips really are. But we've got a ton of stuff to talk about today. We dropped the Drag Illustrated pound for pound rankings, what I believe to be a game-changing conversation starter in the sport of drag racing, something that is long overdue in this sport. We're also going to be talking about the fast approaching PDRA, what is the name of that? Mid-Atlantic Showdown coming up at Virginia Motorsports Park, and everything in between. Tony Stewart's first win this past weekend in Vegas, what's happening in Pro Stock, my experience out at Yellow Belly Drag Strip, the Gut. I went out to the Gut last weekend outside Dallas, and man, for small tire gangsters, and what an incredible show that was. But a very wild experience that I'm excited to kind of dive into with all of y'all today. But before I get any further along, I got to introduce my co-hosts here on the Wes Buck Show, the ones and onlys, Mike Carpenter and JT Hudson. What's up, boys?
What's up?
Yo.
Man, out here swinging and ducking. How are you guys?
Not a lot going on.
Should I clap you in every week? Maybe.
Yeah, we want the claps too.
I'm going to clap them in. Clap them in.
Based on your intro, I wish there were a few more things going on in drag racing.
Right?
Holy moly. Is there a lot happening or what? It feels like a fantastic time to be a part of the sport of drag racing. Like, there are so many things to talk about. There are so many things happening, good stuff, exciting things that I feel are kind of lifting the entire sport. And I mean, that's always been the mission, right? To grow and build the sport of drag racing, but to evolve the sport and push it forward, not settle for where we're at and be comfortable in the status quo and the mundane of how it's always been done, but to try new things. So anyways, I think it's a great time to be alive, man.
Speaking of new things, I like these name tags and
I just thought we'd dress it up a little bit.
Official labels here, and JT's got it's kind of hiding your Masters swag though, JT. I mean, we got to show that off this week. JT fresh off the Masters tournament.
Would you drop $1,000 on Masters swag?
Just for that hoodie.
More than that. You don't realize it, and then you get up there to check out, you're like, shit, really?
Food's cheap. Food's cheap. Nothing else is cheap.
Well, and there's like a whole cottage industry around Masters merchandise. Like, people go there and buy a bunch of the stuff and then sell it on eBay or whatever, Facebook Marketplace. It's kind of crazy, man.
Makes $1 million an hour, something like that. 16
in sales.
Yeah, a minute. $277 in a second.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even think Ryan Martin can compete with that.
They're like, I ain't sitting waiting on that shit. Like, I hit it on the way back. On the way back when we're coming out of there, it was empty. Well, not empty, still like a madhouse inside. But
it was probably 2 a.m. after you woke up. buried under a tree somewhere. It's a pine needles.
That bar, that club.
That club, you mean the legendary
Club
Magnolia,
out there repairing
the big wigs.
Yeah, JT wakes up, they're repairing the green, and no one's to be found. Yeah, I know how you roll. But you look like you're still recovering to me. So maybe a few more days off, and you'll be good to go. You can get with Nate.
Yeah, no joke. I will tell you though, JT and I have been humping on this Drag Illustrated pound for pound rankings. Massive undertaking, and we've been shooting arrows at it for a few weeks now. We wanted to wait till the Midwest season opener had concluded until we announced the list, until we released our first list. But my goodness, it's already got things stirred up, and that was exactly what we were going for, right?
Yeah, we get it. But it goes back to it is the numbers. It is what it is. Because hell, I was sitting arguing about it, wasn't I, Wes? Like no way, But I mean,
JT called me. He's like, "How in the hell is Shawn Murder Nova Ellington ahead of Stevie Jackson?" And I'm like, "Well, man, it's just how the math works out. And if we tracked, the problem is, and I'm hoping, and I put this in a Facebook comment. My goal is to inspire track operators, race promoters, sanctioned series officials to be more purposeful and intentional about their record keeping. You'd be blown away how many drag races." There are no meaningful records. There are no meaningful stats. Nobody's keeping track of this stuff. It's in a manila folder somewhere, right? Stuck in a file cabinet.
Go try to find it afterwards. It's like, oh, it's not actually on the series page. It's on someone's personal page.
No, that's been a battle forever. Ask Brett Kettner about it. I mean, that's been a battle for us. If it wasn't for Brett and his just relentless pursuit of some of these numbers, I mean, we'll be in the middle of our Winter Series events, and he's texting me asking for, full breakdown sheets of the, whatever class Q2 and whatever. Because, I mean, it takes a lot of manual effort. And that on the betting front, on something like the top 8 and now on the pound for pound rankings, that is the biggest challenge. But let's, going back to what you said earlier, in Drag Racing Mayhem has a question here, like, why is Jason Harris number 8? Let's talk a little bit about where we're starting right now with these rankings and why these numbers may not reflect like a career history arc, and that it's more of a reflection of where we are right now based on this season.
Absolutely. Great question, Mike. And so really we had to pick a starting point, and we had to pick a starting point that was going to be manageable. I think a lot of fans, a lot of racers, they want these things to kind of start at the finish line. They want them to be completely perfected. But I don't know if you've ever heard of the 60-40 principle, but I'm a big believer in it. And it basically says that somewhere between those numbers is when you have enough information to take action. A lot of people wait till they have 100% of the information, right? They feel like they want to be super ready. They want to have it all together, buttoned up to a T. But the problem is, by the time you get 100% of the information, and this is typically used in warfare scenarios, the enemy knows what you're doing. You're going to get ambushed. They're going to beat you to it. So you've got to find that happy medium, that window between 40 and 60% of the total information and take action. And that's what we did. I looked at it and I said, we've got to pick a clear starting point. In my eyes, and in the world of Drag Illustrated, like it or not, the 2025 season started with the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals, the first race of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series. That series continues into the following year, of course, and then we carried on with the first 2 races of the NHRA season, the Arizona Nationals and the Gator Nationals, of course, as well as the PDRA East Coast Nationals and now the Midwest Extreme Nationals. So once we had what I felt was like a pretty solid data set, a good sampling pool, we started leaning on our artificial intelligence model. And we've been training a large language model for the last, month now, training it, teaching it things, trying to make sure it understands the nuances of drag racing, understands how hole shots work, we have a lot of things in here. We had a situation where I had actually a fan send me a note that Mike Stavrinos' reaction time was incorrect because he had a 922 light in Arizona. But we had to have the artificial intelligence model factor in because that's not fair. He had his opponent break. He was given a competition single. And so that's an outlier. So we basically trained the AI to understand the nuance of if a guy has a way out of range reaction time, there's typically a reason for that. And they should not be penalized for it. That's not Mike Stavrinos' fault, that the car in the other lane broke, and he had no urgency on the starting line. There was no need for him to run the risk of red lighting or whatever, screwing up. So he took his time. And so all these nuances kind of factor in. But, you know, the reason like Stevie Jackson being so far down on the list, like these are the things that I'm quite comfortable with. Like if you look at the UFC pound for pound rankings, Dana White, the president of the UFC, rarely agrees with the rankings because their deal is entirely subjective. It is based entirely on votes from the media. They have established a voting system with select members of the MMA media, and it's entirely subjective. Knowing drag racing is so rooted in stats and numbers, I knew that we had to make sure that the math was out front. You know what I mean? Like the math had to be the most important part of this, weighted the heaviest. So we went into it with that in mind, that we wanted the numbers to really tell the tale. And Stevie Jackson, as an example, his sample size is pretty small. He's been to 3 Pro Mod races so far this year. So we factor in things like strength of schedule, different weights or different events are weighted differently. We factor in a hot hand bonus. Like once you've won 3 or 4 rounds in a row, you're going to start to get some favorability in the rankings because you're on a roll. And that's why you see like a relative newcomer like to Pro Mod, Tim Papp. You know, he's way up in the rankings, even though he's really only run this one race. So anyways, there's a lot of nuances to it, and we will evolve it as we go.
Yeah, let's drop the link in the comments there, T. But let's run through the top 20 right now, just verbally.
Okay, let's do it. So the Drag Illustrated pound for pound.
Just names.
Okay, top 20. Let me pull it up. So leading the charge, no surprise, we've got Fairfield, Connecticut's Ken Cartuccio, Pro Mod Titan. Cartuccio's U.S. Street Nationals wins, and Snowbird runner-up show he's a threat anywhere he goes. He's got an 0.37 reaction time average this year across Winter Series and NHRA competition. Massively impressive. Number 2, Mike Stavrinos. Number 3, Melanie Salemi. Number 4, Steve King. Number 5, Kai Kelly. Number 6, Tim Papp. Number 7, Shawn Murder Nova Ellington. Number 8, Jason Harris. Number 9, Lyle Barnett. Number 10, Ricky Smith. Number 11, Mark Mickey. Number 12, Johnny Camp. Number 13, Tommy Franklin. Number 14, Kurt Stedding. Number 15, Ryan Hayward. Number 16, Mike Bowman. Number 17, Steve Jackson. Number 18, Erica Enders. Number 19, Ty Totoro. And number 20, rounding out the list, Travis, the Carolina Kid, Harvey. To be honest, I think if you even did a fully subjective list that was just the 3 of us picking our favorites, I don't know that the list would look a whole lot different. I'm sure there'd be some movement, but I don't know that the list would look a whole lot different. And again, it's rooted in math, so it's difficult to argue against, especially when you understand the scope we're working with. Again, if you factored in every win that Stevie Jackson has ever had in his career, or every win that Mark Mickey's ever had in his career, or Ricky Smith, I mean, I'd argue that Ricky Smith would like steady stay at the top because of his legacy of success. And that's not what we want. We want something that's going to drive conversation. I mean, as you probably read in the press release, mainstream sports fans, they rely on rankings. It's a part of NCAA. It's a part of the NFL. It's a part of MLB. It's a part of the mixed martial arts. Like modern sports fans are trained to look for who is this guy or gal and where do they, stack up against the masses. And we wanted to create something that wouldn't be limited to just Drag Illustrated Winter Series competition, or just limited to NHRA, or just limited to PDRA or Midwest or Northeast Outlaw Pro Mods, or Pro Mods at the Rock, or whatever comes next. But I mean, a great example is I'm reaching out to the guys at Rockingham Dragway right now because their race deserves to be factored into these metrics, but I've not been able to secure the round results. And that is another thing, like we're having to lean on a ton of high-end technology just to pull this off, because a lot of these run sheets, all you're getting from a promoter or a track is a picture, a picture of a piece of paper. If you're lucky,
social media page.
On a social media page. So it's low res, it's all these things. And I'm having to lean on a ton of different technologies just to create that data set. But now that we have it, it is going to be massively impactful in the years to come, because no longer, a year from now, we won't have 6 races to reference. We'll have 30 to reference. And that will just make these more and more legitimate as we go. And, but again, everybody's afraid to like stick their neck out there sometimes, but I know in my heart that this is important.
We've been down this road many, many times, and we always talk about how our audience has changed over the years, and it continues to change. And this audience that's watching us today probably doesn't realize how many lists we've made over the 20 years in print, and how many times we've stuck our neck out, and how many kind of outlandish statements we've made that end up becoming true down the road, or we call our shot early. So we've been doing this for a long time in print and on our website, and now just kind of getting into this AI data-driven era. And it drives the conversation for sure. You're already seeing it by the reaction on our social media. And what I think is cool is that if you were to use this list like back in the old days, this is how you would make a match race come together. And this is how, like UFC, like you talked about, this is how they make their next pay-per-view come together. So across all these different fields, if you were going to put together, you know, the ultimate pro mod match race, this would be your resource to kind of see how these guys all stack up together, and maybe what the fans want to see as far as two cars, let's say that are not in the same weight class, or don't normally race together, like two fighters that don't normally fight each other. You put those two together and you kind of create that magic, which again is something we've talked about doing a lot with our Winter Series events, bringing an Eric Enders, a Murder Nova, a Kai Kelly in with a Melanie Salemi and Steve King and Stevie Jackson, and having these traditional pro mod badasses and these people that are just jumping into it. Randy Couture, who we're going to talk to in a little bit. This is the kind of data that I think throws those personalities together.
Well, I mean, can't you imagine, like for me, I was looking at this and I'm always like thinking about the sports future and what I want as a fan. And what I want is to go to the Midwest season opener or go to the PDRA Mid-Atlantic Showdown and hear the announcer saying, here comes Melanie Salemi, the number 3 pound for pound pro mod driver in the world. I want our teams to be able to lean on this, right? I want our teams to be able to take these things into a promotional aspect. And you're right, match racing. You guys have heard me talk about this a ton right here on this very show, that I want to see the glory days of match racing return. And I don't think they will without this context. I really feel this year we will see a track, a smaller venue somewhere on the East Coast, more than likely, decide that we're going to have Melanie Salemi come in and run Steve King, the number 3 and the number 4 pro mod drivers in the world, go head to head, right? Or bring in somebody from a different sanction or series, someone who doesn't cross paths often. And one of the things that I think, amongst many, in my opinion, that is special about the Winter Series is that so rarely are all these names in the hat together. And we actually started down this path a couple of years ago, and I was going to do it specifically for PDRA Pro Boost, specifically for PDRA Pro Nitrous, specifically for NHRA Pro Mod, specifically for all these different things. But I felt like it would lose its luster and not have its significance if it didn't throw them all in the hat together. So instead of doing, division rankings, we did a pound for pound ranking. And it's much like mixed martial arts, where you get to see a heavyweight fighter compared against a light heavyweight fighter. Like, they would likely never fight, or they never would fight. There's no place for them to do that. There's no place where that would be allowed. But in these rankings, they are compared against one another. And I want to see people such as Ken Cartuccio, or whomever may bump him off the throne there, bump him out of that top spot at some point in 2025, and maybe not. I want to see that be a focal point of the conversation, is that as of today, Ken Cartuccio is the pound for pound baddest son of a bitch in the world when it comes to pro mod. And that's worth talking about. And we need things to talk about, right? We can't just talk about the points. They don't often change that much. And then again, it's separated. It separates all these different guys. I want to see them on one list together. And I want to see people striving to break into that top 20. It's going to give us a tremendous amount of content here at Drag Illustrated, where we can talk about the drivers that are on our radar, or on the bubble, right? Guys that are kind of in the mix, but not quite there yet. And it's also cool because you're seeing some names like Kai Kelly and Shawn Ellington that typically would never be mentioned in the same breath as Ricky Smith. But on this list, they are. And I think that's very, very, very important. And will be it could really, Kimmy Walrus in the comments is saying, right, this could inspire some off-weekend grudge races, 100%. And we will actually, if that begins to happen relatively frequent, actually, the moment it happens, those results will be factored into our rankings. Because if they go head-to-head somewhere without outside competition in a grudge race or in a match race, it will 100% be factored into these rankings.
Yeah, I love it, man. And then we're gonna get other media involved as well to vote. So the math will only be part of it.
Yeah. So basically, right now we're leaning on 60% math, 40% subjective opinions from a mock panel that we've generated via artificial intelligence, and it's very close, and it's actually surprisingly on the nose. Like, I've been shocked by how good the AI technology has been. It's come a long way in 2 years.
Another example of how scary this stuff is getting.
It's terrifying, man. And especially we've chosen to leverage XAI's Grok. And it is so tuned into real-time information on social media and so tuned into like X specifically that it's able to look at, who's the talk, who is a needle mover, who's getting likes, shares, replies, etc. And it factors that into the conversation.
Are you, Mike?
What'd you say?
So I'm pretty tuned in some X content, yeah. Or that's true.
There's triple X, JT.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
My X feed, I need to reset
the Salemi math is probably soft. I actually spoke to Melanie this morning, and we confirmed that the math's correct. And she has, across the races that she's been in so far this year, we have her as competing at 11 competitive rounds that she's had. She was 049, 030, and 050 at Snowbird. She was 042, 061 at US Streets. She was 017 and 052 at World Series of Pro Mod. And at the season opening PDRA race, she was 016, 027, 016, and 001. So that gives her, her average reaction time is an 033. So, it's pretty amazing that we're able to load in all this stuff. What is the math
being soft? What does that mean?
Probably that soft? It like rounded. They're not believing in how it's rounding, perhaps. I'm not sure, but no, it's dead on the money, man. And I even confirmed. I talked to Ryan Hayward a few minutes ago, and he was asking. He was actually just being funny. But Ryan Hayward told me his average reaction time is 061. And I told him that's nothing to be ashamed of, man. That's really good, especially brand new car, brand new combination. I mean, this is what Ryan Hayward is doing is important.
Yeah,
is impressive.
Winter Series momentum onto XRP last weekend as well, man. Really impressive. Really cool to see what that guy's doing and to see him on
this weights wins. This weights wins. I mean, round wins matter in the power rankings. The pound for pound rankings. And I think that is something that people are going to kind of realize as we go, that, Mike Stavrinos ran 2 races this year. That's it. But he won 8 rounds in a row.
And that's important,
qualified number 1. I mean,
that's always been big for us. It's not about who's the quickest. I saw some comments on the post once you made it. What about the RVW guys? They're quicker, blah, blah. Honestly, we don't give a shit. That's not what it's about. It's about round wins. It's about race day, reaction times, a lot of stuff that kind of goes by the wayside over there in RVW.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's massively important, and it has so little to do with the on-track performance. Like, we actually, factored into this the performance of the cars, but being that there's disparity in rules, the rules are different across several of these series. Obviously, NHRA races quarter mile, and the most other pro mod sanctions or series or events run 1/8 mile. So I leaned on crew chief Jamie Miller from the Pro Line camp. I said, hey, I need some help with our math calculations on how we're going to convert these numbers. So I got some really great information from Jamie Miller, and I really appreciate it. Shout out to Jamie Miller for taking some time earlier last week at like midnight. I started texting him. I was working on this, couldn't turn my brain off. And I just thought, you know what, Jamie might still be up.
So I started usually at midnight.
Yeah, I'm getting started at midnight. Yep. But those are that's the magic hours for me, man. Yeah. And but anyways, Jamie gave me some really good insight on back halves for turbo cars, pro charger cars, screw blower cars, nitrous cars, and it made us really feel good about those calculations. And who is Mike Stavrinos tuner? That is the one and only Todd Tutterow. King Tut. And Paul Donahue is saying we need a fantasy pro mod league, and these are the steps that are needed. Yeah, we have to have this, we have to have this type of information to get to that point, because I thought was a pound for pound rankings will be our first, kind of the first step towards sports betting, or a fantasy team type of deal, or where a guy can put together a 4 or 5 driver lineup and see how they do throughout the course of the year. And I'm going to encourage kind of a public service announcement on behalf of the sport of drag racing, and specifically us here at Drag Illustrated. Track owners, track promoters, event promoters, we've got to hold ourselves to a higher standard when it comes to recording the happenings of these events. Keith Haney and Ellen Eschenbacher are a great example. I hit them up as soon as the race was over on Monday morning. I said, hey, I need complete round results from everything that happened in Pro Mod at the Extreme Nationals. And in 5 minutes, I had it. Same with the PDRA. They do a great job of posting all of their round results right onto Facebook. So we don't have to, right onto their website. So I'm not having to scroll through 10,000 Facebook posts to try to find them. And it really
you gotta have dedicated media people. That's the thing. Keith's invested in that. Most of these series have, and the Rockingham deal, like you talked about, I'm sure they'll get there. They just had their first event, but those are a bunch of guys, a lot of racers, kind of running their own series and trying to put something together. And you can't do that anymore. You've really got to have a dedicated media person that's dedicated toward getting that stuff online, because it's going to become more and more important as time goes on.
And a huge shout out to Rick Green and the whole gang at dragracecentral.com. I think people oftentimes sleep on the resource that website is. But man, that website, the amount of archival data they have is almost unbelievable. And it was really easy within 2 seconds, you know what I mean, to go to dragracecentral.com and pull up all the round results, qualifying results, complete, legibly, easy to read, easy to digest. And anyways, it was very helpful. So I think anybody, Drag Race Central, I'm not trying to promote their business for them necessarily, but I am. They will do remote stat keeping for your events. And if you want to reach out to those guys, Drag Race Central or Rick Green, I believe Kelly Wade is also involved in the operation from a PR standpoint. There's a lot of people you can reach out to. And honestly, even us here at Drag Illustrated, if you reach out, we will do our best to connect you with somebody that can stay on top of those results for you and make sure that, because the racers want it. The fans need it. Our sport needs it, but racers want to be able to look back in a couple of years and see who did what and how they fared in this event and what their light was, or remember when I ran, Ryan Hayward and E1. They want to be able to go look back.
There's like no data on probably 75% of the passes that we ever made when we were racing. I mean, it's just not there. And you may have video, like D. Bruner was saying that NC Pro Modder was there covering it, and he does a fantastic job bringing video, but his job is not to post the sheets or results or anything. So it's another step from a traditional media standpoint to get that kind of data on there as well.
It's a very important piece of the puzzle. And as we move forward, I think the goal of this was to drive conversation. I knew it was going to spark debate. I knew there would be controversy, but those are the things that you just kind of got to brace for impact and know that it's going to happen and know there's going to be some people that disagree, but that's what we want. I want people to pick a side. I want people to pick a favorite. I want them to cheer on their favorite driver or bag on the guy they don't like. We need that. Our sport needs more conversation starters.
That you've looked at online, NFL, MLB,
that's
NBA,
what it's about, man.
It doesn't matter, man. I mean, read the comments. Everybody's argued about it. It depends what you like, who you like, and everybody has their own interpretation of who's the best, right? So,
just a few weeks ago when the NCAA tournament bracket was announced. Remember that's all mainly data driven, and then it's got a little bit of objective data or subjective data to it, and it's just like. When North Carolina got in, that was a big deal around here because a lot of people felt like they didn't deserve it and they made it, but it's still that drives that excitement and conversation. They've got a whole TV show around announcing that bracket, which largely should be known just based off the rankings that you see throughout the rest of the season. But there's still that, who are they going to be facing? What side of the ladder are they on? All that kind of stuff, where that kind of data, when we talk about making these match races and events in the future, that kind of data comes in handy.
I think it's going to be massively impactful for our sport. And again, just another way to shine a light on all these men and women behind the wheel of these cars, because they deserve it and they need to see their name in lights. And it's so much of what keeps teams going. I think it's safe to say that there's not many people out here making a bunch of money going drag racing. So it's like, we've got to make sure that there's other ways that they're getting something out of this, and to be in the top 20 pound for pound rankings, I think is a big step in that direction. So guys, we've got a couple of big guests in the green room right now. Let me take a quick second and remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com today and make sure you tell them we sent you. Guys, the man of the hour right now is staring me in the face, as well as one of my dear, dear friends and a guy who's on a bit of a roll himself. Let's give it up, guys, for Shawn Murder Nova Ellington and Keith Haney. Clap.
Sorry.
Not you, Keith. We're supposed to clap for you. We got to clap for Keith. What's going on, guys? I appreciate you taking some time on a Wednesday afternoon to come talk shop with us. Real quick, before we dive into the Midwest Drag Racing Series event and all the incredible things that took place there, Keith Haney and I spent the night at Yellow Belly Drag Strip last week, and I'm just curious, Shawn, have you ever been there?
I haven't. It's one of those things that's on my bucket list. I think any grassroots racer, it's on their bucket list. It's one of those places that I've seen millions of videos from that place, and it's just somewhere that I want to go. But until I have time I'm not a good spectator, to be honest with you. Until I have time and have my small tire car lined out to where I want to take it there, it'll happen at some point. Just it hasn't yet.
It's Keith and I think our jaws were on the ground. Keith, have you ever seen anything like that? I mean, we were there for Jimmy Dale and Michael Poland's Small Tire Gangsters event, a 3-day race that had a Thursday night shootout, a Friday night shootout, and a Saturday shootout. The place was packed wall to wall, literally. And I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it.
I have seen a lot of stuff in my life, but I can tell you going over there was pretty dang cool. We had a little experience, you and I. We had to help clean up the track. Believe it or not, both of us were out on the track. We helped clean it up, and then they raced the rest of the night. I think what was more wild, I thought I was a race car driver. I really did. Until I seen them boys wheeling that thing from one end of the racetrack, from one side of the racetrack to the other. I mean, you give yourself a different perspective on street racing when you got 3,000 horsepower trying to hit the ground with no traction.
Zero.
It was crazy.
I can't wait to go again either. And it's obviously it's outlaw. It's been outlaw since 1955. And every time one of those videos get posted, there's all sorts of uproar and whatnot. But human's gonna human, boys. You know what I mean? Like, they've been running this place since 1955. If anybody thinks some comments on Facebook are going to change the way they do things, I think we're mistaken. Yeah, I think we're mistaken. And it's a tough spot because I understand there's some things there that'll kind of get you thinking, like, okay, this ain't great. But I also know that there's nothing that I can do about it necessarily. I can encourage them. And like Keith and I were quick to try to jump out there and help them prep, get the track cleaned up, because at least we can try to make sure the surface is as safe as it can be, because they're going to race on it. I mean, Shawn, do you ever get pushback from like people about some of the places that you've raced? I know you've raced in some sketchy locales. I mean, at drag strips, like, how do you handle that?
I mean, you got to handle it just like you handle anything else. There's going to be negative sides to everything, but look at everybody that was out there. Look at the crowds that it draws. I mean, I think some of the bigger places need to take a look at it and see. They're obviously doing something right, because the place is packed. I watch live feeds from that place pretty much every Thursday night. They have just a test and tune that's just out of control, and there's nothing going on but a test and tune at that place. And there's multiple tracks around the country that are just like that one that you just don't hear a lot of stuff about. But I want to hit as many of those hole in the wall, small American, just a good old boy out there in his blue jeans, taking his hot rod down the strip. It's what started all of this stuff.
And the last thing we need to do as a sport is alienate those people, right? Yes. Or make them feel bad. Like, I was looking at it kind of through the lens of some of the people who were making questionable decisions. They don't know any better. They've never been to an NHRA national event. They've never been to a pro level drag racing event. They don't even know. They don't even know that there's such a thing as a 20-layer fire suit, probably. You know what I mean?
Go,
and that
man.
They should probably be wearing.
Now you know where I came from and everything I had to learn to get to where we're at. Like, because there's multiple things that I still learn all the time that I didn't even know about. So that's just how it goes. That's the evolution of street racers.
It really is, man. And I mean, for me, I'm glad that they're not in an industrial area somewhere. I'm glad that they do have an EMS on the site.
They're there too.
Yeah,
all those same people are out at the industrial areas.
Well, I can tell you this. I would like to see any one of them. I co-own Tulsa Raceway Park with Todd, and I look that way because it's right down the street. I'd have them guys tomorrow. That's the midnight drags. I think I told you, Wes, that was the midnight drags when I was a kid. Shawn, when he was a kid, that's what it was like in Tulsa. Boy, I hadn't seen that in a long time, but that was.
There's a great comment here from Hilljack Nitro Shark that says some tracks should stop looking at what's wrong and start looking at what other tracks are doing right. And I tell you what, that was my takeaway from it, because when I was out there, first and foremost, massively diverse group. Every race, creed, and color was represented, and they were young. I'm looking around and I'm not seeing a bunch of old fogies like I typically see at the drag strip. I'm seeing teenage kids, girls, young women, and they're there with smiles on their faces, laughing, having the time of their life, and they have no idea what's going on. They don't know what a 60-foot time is. They don't know what a good reaction time is. They're just having a blast at the drag strip. And as I was like, I didn't want to leave. I think I left it to what time we leave, Keith? 2 o'clock in the morning?
It was 1:45 as we started walking to the truck, but I think we had to stop by the taco lady.
We did have to stop by the taco lady. So support those that support Jimmy Dale in Poland. It was worth it. But I'll tell you, man, I didn't want to leave. And then I had other obligations. I needed to be at XRP on Saturday. I had some stuff with my kids on Friday, and I'm going, man, I want to, how quick can I get back to Yellow Belly? Because I want to see this whole thing. And it's the vibe. It's just electric. And again, you say what you want about how it's done or whatever. But the fact of the matter is there were thousands of people at the drag strip having the time of their lives. And we need more of that. So I'm not going to bag on them. I'm not going to beat them up. Of course, there's room for improvement, but there's room for improvement at every event. There's room for improvement at the World Series. There's room for improvement at the U.S. Nationals across the board. But what they have there is energy and momentum, and I think we've got to pour fuel on it, not try to pour cold water.
Well, the biggest problem is you'll never see all of those people, or at least half of those people, at, I'm just going to say, a bigger track, because they're not going to let them run. Like, people get focused too much on, does your car fit NHRA legal to run what it runs? Well, I mean, what does it run if there's no times? So it's really tough, and that's what keeps a lot of these same guys on the street and at outlaw tracks like this right here, because there's no questions asked. I mean, there's a good side to it, and there's a bad side to it. A lot of those piles that those people are racing out there, they're going to oil the track down. They're going to cause issues. But on the plus side, they're bringing multiple people to the tracks. And like you said, that's how you learn. That's where they come from, straight from the streets, and go do something like that. And I guarantee every one of those people out there that, like you said, don't know, they're learning more and more every time they go to the track. They're putting more and more of their hard-earned money into this race car. Whatever level it's at, they're putting money and time, and they're building our sport, whether they know it or not. Because
100%.
Somebody else in the stands is looking at that guy with the biggest shit box out there going, man, I want to do that someday.
You know
doesn't
what's
matter
cool,
where
though?
you're at, what level of racing you're at. Somebody is watching you, wishing that they had what you had and the ability to do what you're doing.
And guess what? That's exactly what happened when we were there. I was totally amazed on how many people, and I'm not trying to gloat or nothing, but how many people knew me, knew Wes, knew the crew that was my crew that was with us. It was totally shocking. They were like, "What are you doing here?" That's all they kept saying. I'm like, "Shoot, I just like racing, and this is kind of fun."
And it goes both ways.
I couldn't believe it. Pictures being taken. I mean, all the sponsors that are sponsors of even Pro Mod, you've seen those out there. It was something cool to see and to be a part of, and hopefully them seeing us out there, me and Wes and the crew,
a host of others.
I hope it brings them to our racing world. I mean, that's what I hope.
Listen to me. Let me explain something to you, Keith. Those people are already in your racing world. Those people know you because they keep up with videos. They keep up with social media. They keep up with all that. And it goes both ways. I keep up with all those guys. Like, my son went out. He left XRP. He went out there and hung out. He didn't get back to the to the Airbnb until 4:30, 5 o'clock that next morning.
And then you didn't let him take that chain, did you?
No, I didn't even want him to take his truck, to be honest with you. But, that's just the way it goes. So he called me multiple times that night while I was sleeping. I was like, Dad, who's going to win this race? And believe it or not, whenever I say it goes both ways, it does. I keep up with all them. I know all those people that race in the small tire stuff. And I told him, hey, this guy's going to win, And then he'd call me back, hey, Dad, I'm fixing to bet on this race. Who's going to win this one or this one, And I'd tell him, hey, this guy's going to, And
you don't want to
keep up with them just like they keep up with you.
I lost a whole lot of money that night. So I never won a race.
Yeah. Well,
I watched Keith get cleaned out. Keith got cleaned out. I don't think he won a single bet the whole night. Then he started doing the classic Keith Haney, I'm gonna make a big bet that you won't take, so I get to rub it in your face. So all these guys are wanting to bet him $5, and all of a sudden Keith's like, well, you want to do it for 100? No, man, I don't want to bet 100.
They would have cleaned my clock. They would have cleaned my clock. I thought I could pick the real car. They already knew the car. They already knew the winner. And I was like,
absolutely.
Oh, man,
Well, and down at those deals, you cannot judge a book by its cover. I mean, I'll tell you what, some of the baddest things on the property had the quarter panel caved in. And
hey, man, any good, fast, small tire car has different color panels all over it.
It's so true, man. It's so true. But I want to tip my cap to those guys because they're fighting. It's a tough thing putting on these events and trying to keep people happy and do all the things that it takes to put on a successful drag race. And I think they ticked a lot of boxes this past weekend. Sure, they had some, significant, bumps in the road this weekend, but it really incredible happening and a great thing for the sport of drag racing. So let's go to the other side of Dallas and talk about Extreme Raceway Park and the Midwest season opener. Shawn, I have to say, man, you ran through that deal like a hot knife through butter, buddy. I think we all knew that it was a matter of time before you guys got the necessary laps, you got the necessary seat time to be a real problem in the pro mod world. And I'm just like, did you anticipate this type of success this early?
I mean, we had goals and we hit pretty much every goal that we had this weekend. And I don't know if any of the goals were as big as just to be consistent with that turbo car. And honestly, I think that's what I'm most proud of is the fact that we went out there, we made 10 passes last weekend and we didn't abort one of them. I mean, I lifted a little bit early because it started to get towards the center, but we still went a 373 at 180 on the one pass that we aborted, so to get, that's been the big question all these years is, turbo cars qualify great, but how do they actually race? And the consistency of a turbo car is always at question. Even from me, they're at question. In what we do with the no prep stuff, I don't think that there's a place for it in big tire. And it's just that's just what I believe. And we just showed this weekend that a turbo car, now on a consistent track, a turbo car can be consistent.
I was massively impressed, man. I mean, I think that yourself, Daniel Parker, Phantom, Stroud, Brandon Stroud, I mean, you've got the right people around you, to put you in the position to be a dominating force out here. Keith, you had a strong weekend as well. Went 362, or did you go one? Yeah, 361.
208.53. Let's not take that away from me.
I won't.
That's right. That's right. What time was it, Keith? Keith, what time was it?
It was about 10 o'clock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a high noon, Shawn? I think it was high noon.
I figured he knows the time.
Shawn.
He knew what the dew point was on that pass.
You got lucky that I made a mistake and he won, and I didn't turn my switch on for the shifter to shift the car because your ass was in trouble because we were gonna end up together because I was gonna roll through. We were gonna end up together in the semis, and I was gonna put a 59 on that damn turbo car that I think I own. Really, it's in your hands, so maybe
you don't own it anymore. It's gone.
Yeah. But no, I was gonna. No, I've just given you shit. But we went 61 at 208.53. It was a great weekend. The air was crap. I mean, 104.8 or something like that. It was just, but to have a nitrous car, I'm more impressed about one thing is we had a nitrous car go 361. We had a Roots car go 361. We had a turbo car go 361. We had a screw car go 361 all at the exact same time in the semis, and then the screw car went in the finals. Russo went there from all the way from New Jersey. Hayworth from Washington, and then you had Shawn went 61. Everyone went 361. Now, obviously, he went 59 in qualifying, but on race day, things you have to look at things a little differently. But to see all those combos, nobody can bitch about it. You got to give kudos to John Sears, which does the World Series of Pro Mod, the U.S. Streets, the Snowbirds, Midwest. I think he helped with No Prep Kings, all that. He does the rules. He really knows. And you putting all this data together, Wes, kudos to yourself. It's only going to make us better to be able to run all these programs together and be able to compete, because I think Brandon Schweitzer has a goal is to prove that a nitrous car can compete. You just got to give it a chance.
You do. I'm curious. We unveiled the inaugural Drag Illustrated pound for pound Pro Mod rankings today. Highly controversial deal, but we're quite proud of it because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to stir the pot, and we wanted to find a way that we could talk about. My goal was, how can we be talking about Pro Mod all the time and have it benefit the Pro Mod division without having to go out and put on more races or whatever, just focus on the stuff that already exists, right? So you look at the industry right now, and there's like a lot of great places to race. You've got the Winter Series, you've got NHRA Pro Mod, you got Midwest, you got PDRA. There's a lot. Northeast Outlaw Pro Mods just announced that they're going to do 3 races. They've got a monthly series going on at Rockingham with Pro Mods at the Rock. Like this deal's hot like fire right now. And it was like, but again, a lot of these guys are regionalized. You know, Melanie Salemi, you're only going to really see her in the PDRA. Yourself, Shawn, Keith Haney, we're going to see you guys primarily in the Midwest Drag Racing Series. And I felt it would lose its luster if we separated everything. We had to find a way to bring all those names together. And the pound for pound rankings are what did it. And Shawn, what's it feel like to see your name on that list?
Number 7. Come on.
Number 7 above Ricky Smith.
Come on, number 7.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where let's just say you're a baseball player and you have one career at bat and you got a hit, and then they're gonna put you right above all those guys who have been doing it for years. You know, so if I can continue to do this and still be in the top 10, top 20, whatever, then absolutely I'll feel honored. But as of right now, I feel like I went out. I had one good showing. You know what I mean? So it's pretty amazing, and it's 100% going to be controversial whenever you put a couple of guys who just started this, who came from the street, who came from not real racing. It's for sure going to be controversial. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, man, that's going to piss a lot of people off. So.
I mean, Wes is the one that started all that deal on your show when you and Wes were together. I remember it because I had text, I think both of y'all, when you said, Wes said, Shawn said, if you put me in a capable car of winning, I don't know what episode it was, but if you put me in a car
like
capable of winning, I'm going to fare as good as they do. And let me tell you something about Shawn. What I have learned in a very short period of time is he cares about winning. It ain't about nothing else. He wants to cut the best light, and he wants to run as fast as he can. I'm like, take a deep breath. Let's slow down. No, let's just go. Let's just go. And he goes up. I remember he goes up to Brandon Stroud and said, hey, I want you to take this out of my hands. So if I screw up, we can still win. Yeah. So anyway, the competition, and I see it with Kai Kelly and all of them. We're all racers. At the end of the day, whether it was street, I started on the street, whether it's a street or whether it's a pro, I promise you, you put the best of the best in there, they're going to freaking make sure. I mean, Shawn can drive a freaking race car. Anything that's 5,000 horsepower with the wheels up at 300 feet and not putting it down until about 550, can drive a race car.
100%, man. And I'm glad you like the list, Shawn, because I like I said, I've been getting a lot of positive feedback, a lot of, great commentary or whatever, but you're going to have some guys up in arms for sure. And you're going to have some guys question it, but that's what we want, Yeah. And this isn't some sort of, point standing that's going to pay a championship, but I want this to be a very significant thing in the sport of drag racing, where if you're in the Drag Illustrated pound for pound rankings, you're a bad son of a bitch wherever you go. Nobody wants to see that name.
Quick. Where's Jim Halsey?
Jim Halsey hasn't raced And so therefore we had to exclude him from the list because, again, I don't know if you guys caught it at the beginning of the show. It's the biggest challenge on this whole deal is nobody keeps any records. Nobody. I mean, you'd be blown away how many events. There's no run sheets. They don't have a PDF. They ain't got nothing. They got some notes scribbled down that they took a picture of and posted on Facebook, and then it got deleted or they lost their account and it's gone forever. So the biggest challenge of this was really getting enough data. And I wanted to wait to unveil it until after the Midwest season opener, because I had a strong suspicion that there was going to be some guys run well. I knew Ryan Hayward I felt like he would carry his momentum. Shawn, I was certain that you were going to have a breakout event. And Keith, I knew how well you guys have been running, and it was like only a matter of time, I thought. So we waited until after the Midwest race, and that gave us 6 races to sample. So we took all the results, starting with the Winter Series, the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals last December, and have it updated until today. And we will continue to add events to this list and weight them accordingly based on car count, based on field size, based on bump spot, to kind of determine, a guy could maybe win every big dog race in the country, but I don't know, or that happens this year, but I don't know that makes him the number 1 guy in the world, because the competition is lesser than it would be at an NHRA race or at a PDRA Pro Boost race. So we had to factor in all those things. And I'll tell you, it was a very complicated thing. Thank God for technology. If it wasn't for artificial intelligence, I don't know that this would have ever happened. But anyways, it's a pretty badass deal, man. And I love to see all these names mixing up. And my goal is I want to go to the PDRA race in a couple of weeks in Virginia and hear the announcers say, here comes Melanie Salemi, pound for pound, number 3 pro mod driver in the world, and give these guys and gals something to put on their shirts, something to talk about, something to be proud of. And we haven't even started with like social media graphics and stories. We're going to be able to create a ton of content around this that is going to, in my estimation, perform really well. So I'm glad you guys like it.
And not to mention, man, there's not a racer out there that doesn't love Monday morning, start scrolling Facebook and just see stats about themselves. We're lucky enough to have the stat guy came in a few seasons ago for MPK. And just the stuff that he comes up with, it's amazing, and that stuff takes a lot of time to keep up with. And like you said, there's not a whole lot of stats being kept. And so when the stat guy came out and started doing all this for us, man, it's amazing to see all the different stats. And it's stuff that helps you out. I mean, he knows everything. From all the
it's incredible, man. I mean, and this is going to be valuable data, because I actually had we have like a large language artificial intelligence model, they call it, that we've trained on this and spent a lot of time on it. And basically, I asked it earlier today, who are the 5 best levers in Pro Mod today? And in a few seconds, it cranks us out a list, based on our training. And it's that's valuable information. And that may not, it's figured into the pound for pound rankings, but we can create separate lists from this. Who has the best average ET this year? Who has the top mile per hour average this year? All these things that just give us more stories to tell and more opportunities to shine a light on racers, man. And
I do want to say something. I want to say thank you to Shawn for bringing out more fans to see Midwest Drag Racing Series, the Winter Series where he raced the World Series of Pro Mod and US Street. We had over 100,000 views on our YouTube channel, and I think it was almost 150 hours watched, and we had 680,000 on Facebook and our other social platform. So I got to give kudos to bringing more eyeballs. And who's going to win on that? The racetracks, Wes. The promoters are going to win. They're going to win. And having the Kai Kellys and the Shawns and I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but the guys that are doing social media, the Stevie Fasses, the Lyle Barnetts, everybody that creates all the controversy, like me and Jim did, that they're bringing eyeballs to the sport, which creates the same thing that you're doing with having the pound per pound racers.
Oh, somebody called Keith. Classic timing. That's so funny. Well, while he says that, I will agree with him, Shawn, and just say that I do think, I told you to your face, you're an absolute needle mover. You're a difference maker in this sport, and it's an incredible thing, and we're lucky to have you. choose to do this. You know what I mean? Because you could have stayed in your lane, so to speak, and you could have kept doing what you're doing and had tremendous success and done all those things. But what I see out of you is somebody that does want to grow the sport of drag racing. And Keith's right. What we need is more eyeballs. I mean, the only way we're going to get guys with big sponsors and get guys selling thousands of dollars worth of merch is to get more interest and get more fans in the stands. And we can't continue to preach to the choir. We can't keep talking about tire shake and clutch discs and bullshit that nobody really cares about or understands except for the hardcores. And they're already coming. We've got to get new fans to the sport. And that's leaning on stars, telling stories, building characters. One thing I want to say to your point, Keith, is I don't know if you saw it on Facebook. Somebody was talking some shit about me, shocking, and saying that we don't shine a light on enough different racers. We talk to the same people all the time. Well, no shit, because they're the ones that talk to us. And a lot of these guys don't put themselves out there. They don't post on social media. They don't engage. And so therefore, we're going to go the path of least resistance. We're going to talk to Justin Swanstrom because he's going to take my call and he's going to say something funny. You know what I mean? I'm going to talk to Stevie Jackson or Lyle Barnett because they're going to wear their feelings on their shirt sleeve and say what they think. And we don't have as much of that in our sport as we need. So if the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you don't toot your own horn, you can't complain when there's no music. You've got to put yourself out there a little bit. And the guys that don't get that rub are the guys that are essentially deaf mutes, have never logged on to the internet, don't want to do interviews, don't want to talk to a camera. And it's like, we're in an era where you've got all the tools. I mean, we're doing this all. I'm talking to you guys on cell phones that you carry in your pocket all day. There's no excuse for it at this point in time. The barrier to entry is negligible. It used to be you had to have Discovery Channel. It used to be you had to have Fox Sports. You had to have ESPN. That's not the case anymore. And we need more people putting themselves out there and shining a light, telling their own stories, because we can't tell them all. I mean, Shawn, I know that was something that you had to build up to, is like, hey, Discovery was doing the promotion for you for a long time, right? You didn't really need to do anything on your own. But then you recognized, as we want to grow this and what comes next, I've got to build my own brand. And look at you now. You're like a fucking real deal YouTuber. You got a merch business. You're on social constantly. You're engaging with people. You'd never turn down an interview because you get it.
Yeah. It's part of it, man. And I've told you before, I'm not coming over here I just want the sport to grow and I want it to continue. Whenever, like the whole speed promotions thing, the Outlaw 32 that we're doing this year, I will do anything that I can for that to grow. Like that's my bread and butter, and that's what we're going to continue to do. Coming over and doing the pro mod stuff, like, it's amazing, and I really do like it. And who could do what we did this last weekend and want to hang it up after that? Like, absolutely, I want to continue to do it. But my deal is the no prep stuff, and I'm going to continue to do that. So I'll be back in blue any chance that we get. But I want to be able to retire from that and it keep on going after I'm done, so any form. I've told you this before. I believe that there's room for everybody. If somebody else could start the exact same thing that we're doing right now, and hey, man, I hope it succeeds, because it's another form of drag racing. It's another place that people can go race. And I think that there's too few of those, and I think that there's room for more. So whatever we can do to grow this sport, like you said, and bring in the younger generation. So otherwise, all us old dudes are going to, be done with it at some point. And
yeah, man,
if the new guys aren't there to carry it on, what's going to happen?
I couldn't agree more. Keith, closing notes with you guys. So what's coming up next? Keith, I guess your next event is, of course, the second stop on the Midwest Drag Racing Series Tour. Shawn, we're staring down the barrel of the start of the speed promotion season, the Outlaw 32 coming up. Is that your next stop?
Yes, I'm actually headed to tests right now. I've got the small tire car and the big tire car, both Novas, in the trailer, and we're headed to test now. So
fantastic. I can't wait, man. I'm planning on hitting up as many of the Outlaw 32 events as I can, because I'm like you, man. I want to see that deal carry on. I recognize what it's meant to our sport. I want to see it continue to be successful, and I want it to continue to birth stars. That's what we really need it to do, is we need it to continue to birth stars. I mean, prior to these shows, I mean, we didn't know who a lot of these guys and gals were, but now they're household names, and we need more of that. And I think we're seeing some rising tide with the Midwest Series. Keith, you got to feel great about your season opener. I mean, I saw the line of people over there getting shirts signed and taking pictures with Shawn. We're seeing some real movement there. You got to be happy going into what, season 9?
This is season 9, and our next race is a throwdown in T-Town. And Wes, you've been a part of that. Shawn's been a part of that. Ryan Martin's been a part of that. Chuck's been a part of that. All these guys have been a part of the throwdown since the day it started, I think 14, 15 years ago. I've owned it 13 years, so it was 2 years before that. So 15 years ago, these guys come up before they were real big stars, and hell, they'd race the midnights and then come to the throwdown. The throwdown's a big one, and we're excited about that. But I'm more excited about the streaming being free. It's kind of cool, and all these people get to see something that they can't afford to watch. They're paid to watch, but they get to see something different and see some newcomers and new faces, and of course, there'll be 15 to 20,000 people in the stands at the throwdown. It always is. So
that place is always jumping for the show or throwdown, man. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Be careful driving down the road, Shawn. Keith, I'll see you soon, I'm sure. And I appreciate you guys. Congratulations on a hell of a weekend. We can't wait to see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. All right, guys, let's give it up for the ones and only Shawn Murder Nova Ellington and Keith Haney, man. It was great to see him this weekend. Mike, JT, where you guys still here?
Yeah, dude.
Yep, I was missing you.
Yeah, I'm joking.
Listen to him.
JT took a nap. He had to get that post mask.
Family stopped by. Yeah.
Oh, you got some family stop by. That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, hey, guys, real quick before we dive into the next segment of the show, I want to take a minute and remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that protect and perform better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. Man, we've got a big one coming up, ladies and gentlemen, and I encourage you now to help us in our goal of growing our Drag Illustrated YouTube channel to 100,000 subscribers here in 2025. Remember to click that subscribe button, click the bell notification, and Mike, JT, you guys ready to dive into our next guest? We were lucky enough to catch up earlier with the one and only, the natural Randy Couture, a 6-time UFC champion, a UFC Hall of Famer, a movie star, and now an aspiring pro mod driver. JT, let's check in with Randy. And on the Drag Illustrated social media networks, as well as on dragillustrated.com. And it is all I've heard anybody talk about for the last 24, 36 hours. It's fantastic news.
I bet you were excited, Wes.
Well, dude, you know, I'm an MMA guy, and I'm cool. I'm comfortable enough to say that I'm a UFC guy. I've been lucky enough over the course of the last year and a half, 2 years, to kind of get to know some of those cats. Did a lot of traveling out to Vegas, spent a couple days hanging out with a bunch of those guys, been to a bunch of these power slap events, and I've really been a student of it. My main goal throughout that whole course was just to learn from them. They do such a great job with their events. They do such a good job with the production end of things and the way they create hype and create energy around these events and tell stories and build superstars. And we're lucky enough right now to be joined by what I would say is certainly a figurehead on the Mount Rushmore of mixed martial arts. Let's give it up, guys, for the one, the only Randy Couture. What's going on? The Natural's in the house, guys. This is a huge deal. I got freaking goosebumps. Okay. Well, hey, Randy, welcome to drag racing, man. And above all else, thank you for taking the time to shoot the breeze with us. It means a lot to us. I've got to ask kind of the origin story of all of this, because while we were stalking your social media over the course of the last day and a half or so, I saw lots of photos of you with different drivers and shaking hands with Cruz Pedregon. And there was an older photo, maybe a decade ago, of you hanging out with Paul Lee. I believe it was at Pomona. Is that kind of where this whole movie started?
In some ways, that actually is absolutely correct. You know, I 10 years ago, almost to the day, I went to Pomona to my first race with Ben Carey, who's a very, very good friend of mine. And he's just a fan. He's like, man, you got to come see this. You know, and we ended up hanging out with Ron Capps and Tony Schumacher from the Army. And obviously I gravitated towards that right away as a former soldier. So it was an amazing day. You know, I got to hang out with Caps that day, go down to the starting line, and the horsepower on that starting line literally snaps your eyes wide open. There is no way you cannot look at this. You feel it in your guts. It's unbelievable. It's
amazing.
Yeah. And so his very first run that day, we're down there watching him get suited up, get in that car, get in that mindset to launch his butt down that track for a quarter mile. And it was amazing and an eye opener for sure. And then he's like, you know, after the race, you know, they tear the car down and watching all that take place, which is remarkable what they do in the 45 minutes they have before the next run. Sometimes it's an hour, but it's crazy that they tear that whole motor apart and put that all back together so that they can run again in an hour or two. Ron recommends, hey, why don't you guys go up to the box and sit with my folks, with my wife and my mom? And I'm like, okay. So it's a completely different perspective from up there. You'll be able to see the whole track and all of that. So that's what we do. He gets about a second into that second run and he blows up. He literally a fireball going down the track. And I'm sitting next to his mother and his wife, and they don't bat an eyelash. And I'm like, I just met this amazing guy. And I just watched him die. I can't believe it. And obviously he didn't die. I had dinner with him that night, and it was remarkably apparent that there's some extreme safety measures with regard to this racing and these cars and what these drivers go through to be able to do what they're doing. You know, 320 miles an hour down a quarter mile in that Nitro Funny car. I mean, that is astonishing. You're literally strapped to a rocket. So I've been a fan ever since that day in Pomona. I'll fast forward to just a couple months ago. Ben Carey and I are still great friends. Ben is a hot rod guy. I mean, that's what he loves. Obviously, he's a world-class guitarist, and everybody knows him from Savage Garden and Lifehouse. But he's a huge hot rod guy. You know, had a Cobra for a while. He's got this 30-foot-long caddy that's just amazing. He's a car guy. And that's something we share. I've been a car guy since I was a kid. It was the only way I was getting my dad's attention was to be into cars. And, you know,
I feel you.
And so we share that in common and that love. And then why he wanted me to go to the drag races, because it's such a cool experience. And now I'm at dinner with him. He's getting ready to go perform at the barbershop with Radio XX, his new band. And I'm sitting with his partner in the Legends Nitro series, Michael B. We're at dinner together. It was Ben's birthday. And Michael's like, hey, are you familiar with the Street Outlaws? And I'm like, yeah, I've seen that show a few times. I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of the reality genre. I've been involved in a couple of those, The Ultimate Fighter, and I kind of know how those go. But I've seen the show for sure. And he said, well, we're working with Sam from Street Outlaws. We're trying to build this new circuit. They want to run it kind of like a fight card and match fighters up against each other and market it like fight cars. I'm like, would you be interested in driving? I'm like, well, I don't know shit from Shinola about driving a race car, but I'm a huge fan. I would love to learn. Hell yeah, I'll throw my hat in that ring. So that started this conversation. And then I think Sam has been running into some challenges trying to get this thing up off the ground and get the right people involved. In the meantime, I go to Pomona a couple of weeks ago, looking at the races with a completely different set of eyes now. Like now I'm not just a fan. I'm actually might strap my butt to one of these things and have to figure out how to control it.
You're a student now.
I'm a student. I'm looking at this with completely different eyes and meeting a bunch of teams and ended up meeting Randy from Skag. We were getting ready to leave that day. Last minute, Nathan, you know, we're visiting the, what is it? The Bluebird Turf car. That was an old teammate of Nathan's from Dominate Racing. And
Dave Richards and those guys.
Yeah, they just ran. And so we were there going to say goodbye to them. Well, Randy happened to be in their area when we walked in. So I ended up talking to Randy for an hour and the values that this guy has and just who this guy is and why he loves racing and why he's involved in racing really, really resonated with me.
About mowed you over.
A really, really interesting guy. You know, here he is all disheveled, sweaty, you know, having spent the whole day at the track that day. And just really hit it off with Randy, standing there talking to him, listening to him explain how he got into racing, why he's into racing, what he loves about the sport, how he treats his vendors and all of that. Now, Professional Fighters League where I'm commentating for MMA right now was kicking off that next week. So I wasn't going to be able to, I was coming back to Vegas just in time for the Vegas races. Ended up, first Randy wasn't really interested that I was going to be a driver. And then within 10 or 15 minutes, he's like, man, what's your budget going to be? And, kind of prodding a little bit. So there was definitely some synergy that was created in this connection in that hour-long time we got to stand and talk to each other. The Street Outlaws Sam thing was taking a different direction. And now I'm looking at a potential sponsor that will allow me to be a driver, to not be part of a reality TV show or anything like that, and just really focus on driving a race car, which was very appealing to me. Had to have some hard conversations with Ben and Michael V from American Racing and the Legends Nitro Series guys, that I'm not so sure I want to get involved in this other. I really want to focus on racing and learning how to race and see if I can make a mark and do something interesting in the Pro Mod class. Turned out the Pro Mod car that Nathan had wasn't going to fit for the Street Outlaws thing and the new circuit they were doing. They wanted steel doors and a steel roof. Yeah. That's not this car, so here I am fitting myself to a car that's not even the right car. And there was just all these roadblocks that kind of kept coming up.
It's like the stars aligned for you to get involved in Pro Mod.
Well, it's really kind of wild, how all that unfolded. And then obviously Bill Windham, who's become a good friend. That same day I met Ron Capps, I met Bill Windham and Tony Schumacher, hanging out with Bill. Bill's a wealth of knowledge in the race industry, and now he knows I'm going to be potentially stepping in and strapping myself into a car. Say, hey man, I'll let you warm up my car this morning if you want to warm up my car. I'm like, well, I'd love to do that. So I put the gas mask on and get in there and do the warm up. And man, when he crack that throttle open and that engine is right in your face, holy smokes. The smile
Game
on
over.
my face, he's like, I might be giving up my seat to you. Look at that smile on your face. But obviously that created a stir. Then they kind of wanted to interview me down on the starting line. What do you, with the crowd, what are you doing here? And I'm kind of thinking about being a driver, honestly. And that's kind of this momentum. And then meeting Randy from Skag, maybe I'm the new Jackal. Who knows?
Man, I tell you what, this is, to be honest, and the fact that you're arriving in Pro Mod, like, I'm not sure how closely you're following Pro Mod right now, but we're experiencing, Pro Modified Drag Racing is experiencing a level of energy and enthusiasm and momentum that I don't know has ever before been seen in the sport of drag racing. For a sport that's been around literally 100 years. I mean, NHRA is preparing to celebrate their 75th anniversary next year.
Right.
It's crazy what the growth that we're seeing right now. And I've always looked at, there's a lot of parallels that I use all the time. I mean, I use these MMA or UFC references constantly, but it was like, I see Pro Modified similar to mixed martial arts, where it's a multitude of different disciplines. You've got a world-class boxer, you've got a world-class wrestler, you've got a great jiu-jitsu guy, you've got a kickboxer, a Muay Thai guy, or whatever the case may be. All coming together, and it's obviously evolved. It used to be very specialized, right? Like the classic UFC videos from back in the day of a sumo wrestler versus a street fighter or whatever. But drag racing, Pro Modified specifically, is very similar. There's a lot of different disciplines. You've got supercharged cars, turbocharged cars, nitrous oxide injected cars, and they're all different. They all have different nuances. They all have places where they shine. Some are more consistent than others. Some make more horsepower than others. But Pro Modified allows all those different combinations to come together and compete on a level playing field. And it's really created a lightning in a bottle type of moment. And we've also tried to look at it. We need stars behind the wheels of these cars. We need to build these personalities and build these characters and turn them into household names. And having someone such as yourself, step foot into the ring, if you will, in this particular brand of drag racing, I'm personally identifying it as something of a tipping point. Every business kind of has that tipping point. You have all the early adopters, and then eventually you break through to the masses. And I'm feeling that happen in Pro Mod. We put on 3 of our own Pro Mod drag races. Wow. And I the 3 biggest independent Pro Mod races on the planet Earth. And I was actually texting with Randy from Skag this morning, and I said, hey man, I hope you've got plans to head to Florida this winter to be a part of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series where Pro Mod shines. And I got a little smile from him. So I'm hoping that is the case, man. I'm genuinely excited about it. But Tell me a little bit about, like, apparently this is going to happen pretty fast. I mean, they're talking about maybe trying to have you in a car in Chicago, Virginia. What's kind of the behind the scenes looking like?
Right now, I've got 8 more PFL shows to work around. So I think we figured out some gaps in the schedule. It looks like I'm going to be able to do 5 races. I still got to get certification done and get a license. I'm still waiting on safety equipment and really wrapping the car. There's a whole bunch of things going on right now. Since, we got a handshake deal with Randy at SCAG. That's how he operates. That's the person that he is. Again, one more reason that his perspective on everything that we discussed just resonates with me. He's an amazing human. So I'm happy to be part of the team. And you just educated me more on Pro Mod than I've heard anybody since this all happened. So thank you.
Pro Mod is
what Pro Mod is. And I've been in Al Capone. I got to sit in this car. He didn't even have a motor in it, but to see if the levers and the pedals and the steering wheel and all the buttons and go through procedures. I got to fold up those chutes and load those chutes, which is something I'm going to have to learn and get a lot better at because that's my responsibility. So there's a lot to learn right now, but I'm tabula rasa. I have no bad habits. So hopefully, and I think with Nathan's guidance and Randy at SCAG and all the teammates at SCAG, I've got a great group of people there. I can pick their brains. Ron Capps, Tony Schumacher. I mean, those guys are amazing. Bill Wyndham, a wealth of knowledge, an encyclopedia of racing. So I have some outlets and the right people to ask the right questions to and really kind of get about figuring this out and putting my butt in that seat. Got to get some sensitivity in that booty, right?
Yes, you do, my friend. Yes, you do. It's you've got some great guys. I've gotten to know Michael Vumbaka and Ben Carey. Got to hang out with them at the barbershop. We've had some fun in Vegas the last couple of years, and those guys as well. Like you're surrounded by a lot of people that have a lot of resources and a lot of a big network. I would say will be very helpful to you and kind of continue my Pro Mod 101. We launched our event, the World Series of Pro Mod, in 2017, and we billed it as the biggest, richest Pro Mod drag race in the history of the known universe. When we kicked it off in Denver in 2017, it was by invite only, 100,000 to win. So it was about 10x any other Pro Mod race in the country at that time. We have since evolved and moved the event to Bradenton, Florida, and we've turned it into a 3-race series that spans 90 days in the winter. So we don't compete with NHRA. We don't compete with any of the other sanctions and series that exist in the world. But now we pay 150,000 to win. It's amongst the richest Pro Mod series on the planet Earth, the richest drag racing series on the planet Earth. But it's the reason Pro Mod has been our, discipline of choice, if you will, is because it really is the universal language of our sport. Pro Mod is kind of seen as the highest level of grassroots drag racing. It's still good old boys and good old girls working on their own race cars, doing it themselves. I mean, there's certainly a lot of hired gun professionals and there's world-class crew chiefs, but this is a brand of drag racing that is successful around the globe. Not only is Pro Mod very popular in North America, but throughout Europe, Australia, the Middle East, Pro Mod is the only brand of professional drag racing that is successfully contested around the world. And we've always seen it just, if we had a best foot to put forward as a sport, it's Pro Mod. Cars still look like cars. They've got big tires on the back and a motor sticking out the hood. I mean, it's a full-size Hot Wheel. And it just, to me, I feel like this is what we need to put our energy behind. And for the stars and moon to align and see you find your way into pro modified drag racing, it's like a legit pinch me moment for me. But I'm curious what your thought is on this, because the story I've been kind of telling folks is I think about guys like Donald Cerrone. He gets to the end of what he feels is his competitive MMA career, right? Yeah. He's still got some gas in the tank. He still wants to do something. He still wants to compete at a high level. He's an adrenaline junkie, a thrill seeker, a guy that yearns for competition. And we've seen him riding bulls. We've seen him doing Baja 5,000 dirt bikes, this, that, and the other. And I kind of asked myself, like, do you see this as something that could be, kind of you could drag race. I mean, with your physical abilities and athletic abilities and the way you take care of yourself, you could race at a high level for years and years and years to come and compete against the best in the world and not have to strap on gloves and punch people.
That is very, very interesting what you just said. And I never thought of it that way, but somebody said, man, you'll be able to race for another 10 years easy. The way,
easy.
What you just said, your physicality, your mindset, the way you approach things, taking care of that body. And there, you have a small window of opportunity to step into that cage. That's the truth. And I'm glad that Cowboy has all his wits about him, and he stepped away and walked away at the right time. He didn't have a promoter or a doctor telling him, no, man, you shouldn't do this anymore. He's still got a lot of life to live, and he didn't grind out another camp and another fight and sustain an injury that was going to affect the quality of the rest of that life. This is the conversation I had to have with myself when it was time to walk away from the sport at 47 years old. I probably pushed it further than anybody's going to push it for a while. But I and I had the gym and the acting and the other business stuff and my charity stuff that I do for our veterans all going. So I had a purpose built in. I didn't flounder. I didn't wonder who the hell am I now? Right. Which is what a lot of these guys struggle with and what drags them back into the ring. Because, it's nice to be walking out of that tunnel and get that kind of shine for the time that you're out there. But you have to know when enough is enough. And it's a difficult thing in any sport, not just fighting, but any sport, to come to terms with that and be real, be honest with yourself. Once that voice starts chattering, hey, maybe it's time to think about doing something else for a living, you better take that seriously.
But I think you're so right in that so many of these men and women, they have a competitive fire that doesn't just go out. Nope. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't go away. It's a part of your DNA. So I've always looked at drag racing, and it kind of drives me crazy, to be honest, because, our position as a sport, like in the overall motorsports world, I mean, it would be undeniable that Formula One is bigger than drag racing. NASCAR is bigger than drag racing, blah, blah, blah. But it's always driven me crazy because this is the great American motorsport. Two cars line up. First one to the finish line wins. It's easy to understand. Every round is sudden death. The stakes are high. The cars are violent and chaotic and make all sorts of noise. They're appealing to the eye, but it's also like it's an intense environment to be a part of, and to kind of carry that on. Imagine a world where Ronda Rousey could fight Conor McGregor and it be a fair fight. That's never going to happen in the cage, but it can happen on the drag strip. Because the cars level the playing field. And I look at our sport today and I'm going, we have every race, creed, color represented. Young folks that are fresh face, 18, 19, 20 years old, but we also have wiry veterans that are 50, 60, or 70 in some cases. And they're able to go out there behind the wheel of their respective hot rods and compete with one another at an extremely high level. And it not really matter who's bigger, who's stronger, who's quicker, who's faster. I mean, obviously there's those things play into it, but the card narrows the gap there. And I just can't imagine. I believe drag racing should be the biggest motorsport in the world. And if it's the last thing I do, we will get there. But it's going to take the involvement of people that bring an audience from other worlds that haven't been introduced to our sport. I mean, you talked about going to your first race 10 years ago and getting hooked. I was damn near born at the drag strip. I've spent my entire life there, 40 years. I've spent damn near every weekend at a drag strip. And I look at this. Ben Carey's calling me right now. I'll call you, Ben. I'll call you right back, Ben. I'm recording an interview with your dear friend, Randy Couture. Can I call you right back, boss? All right. Thanks, Ben. All right. Bye. Anyways.
Did he call me the C word?
He said, oh, nice. No problem, mate. But anyways, it is like, this is what it's going to take. I mean, we've had a few instances a little over 2 years ago. Travis Pastrana, who's an extreme sports superstar, made a couple of test laps in a top fuel dragster, and it had ripple effects throughout our sport. We were getting picked up by media outlets that had never talked about drag racing prior to that. And then in recent years, Tony Stewart, NASCAR legend, IndyCar champion, arguably one of the greatest drag race car drivers alive of all time, he decided to get involved in drag racing, and it has massively impacted our sport. So I start to see this and I'm going, something's happening here. Do you see some of that? Like, maybe there is an opportunity here for you to bring millions of eyeballs from combat sports, which isn't too far away from heads up drag racing.
It's an individual combative sport. I mean, obviously combat isn't part of the rules of engagement, but you're still fighting and racing that other guy. So I totally get that. I think that's a very interesting perspective, and I like that perspective. And I think that's originally what was pitched by Sam from Street Outlaws. Yeah, let's put these guys on a poster, like a fight, and this racer against that racer. I mean, that's exactly what you just described in pro mod. So I feel like everything happens for a reason. all these doors have opened for a reason. You know, Ben's one of my best friends and has been for a very, very long time. You know, he's the one that drug me to Pomona for that first race. And now here we are. And he's got the Legends of Nitro series and all this other stuff. It's just, it seems like it's all falling in order for a particular reason. And I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Those guys thought of me. You know, they know how competitive I am. And I look at acting as a competitive world. You know, I'm reading for parts and auditioning for things that some other dude wants that role too. Yeah. And there's a competitive side to that. You know, certainly the business world and clothing lines and all the other brand ambassadorships and stuff that I got going on, from the bourbon, Four Branches bourbon on down, you know, all the veteran stuff that I do, all that stuff is competitive. And that's what's been tickling that bone for me, staying in shape so I can walk on screen with somebody like Jason Statham or Sly Stallone. I mean, you don't want to be eating bonbons and picking lint out of your belly button walking onto a set like that. You know, those things keep me motivated. And now I'm very, very excited about this opportunity to sit in that seat and deal with that pressure, get used to that Christmas tree and time and all of that.
Oh,
and
yeah, man.
Get that butt ready.
Well, you know, and it is like, I think the timing of this, it's similar to like, I've been a big fan of mixed martial arts for a long time, and probably like 20 plus years. And I have always kind of envisioning the parallels and the comparisons, because a lot of it is very similar. Like you have to have a certain routine. You're going to train a certain way. Your pre-fight ritual is the same. You're going to try to keep a lot of those things as consistent as humanly possible. Yep. And drag racing is so similar in that regard. A lot of these guys have near religious routines before they make a pass, or before they, on race day, what have you. They do things a certain way. They go to bed at a certain time. They have breakfast with a certain group of people or whatever. They pray with a certain group of people. They have all these things that feed into their focus and gets them at peak performance. And I think you're going to find yourself right at home, man. I'm curious about all the fighting stuff. You mentioned working as an announcer, doing broadcast work for PFL. I mean, what's your take on the overall? I mean, mixed martial arts is a wild scene right now. There's a lot of different upstart organizations. You've got the Titan UFC, but you also have all these other brands that seem to be doing well. I mean, what's your kind of take? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great time to be a fighter right now. You have several other promotions to ply your wares and show your skill sets. Obviously, the PFL is relatively new. This is our 8th year, our 7th season. They just changed the format in the PFL and went to a world tournament, a single elimination world tournament, which harkens back to the old Bellator. Yeah. You know, with the progressive tournament that they used to have. Now we have just absorbed Bellator, you know, from Viacom last year, and absorbed all those fighters, a lot of great marquee names in that group. And a bunch of them are showing up now in the PFL and have elevated the level of competition. I think in this world tournament this year, there are 25 countries represented. So It's not just Japan, Brazil, and the US anymore. It's become a global phenomenon and is in many ways the combative sport for this generation right now. Where I think in my era, it was boxing. You know, the toughest guy on the planet walking around was the heavyweight champion of the world in boxing. And I think that's changed several years ago, and people recognize, you know, the merit in mixed martial arts and what was created. And one of the first brands was the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So with good reason, they are the strongest and biggest promotion in the sport. Now there's some growing pains. They've worked very diligently to keep the athletes under 20% of the take, which is ridiculous. Show me another professional sport where that's the case. And that's why there's 2 class action lawsuits. One's being settled right now, and the second one's ongoing for probably another couple years. But 3 of the biggest class action firms in the world took that on. So there had to be some merit there. When they sold to WME, they knew that there was a fair chance they were going to lose that case. And that was rolled into the $4.2 billion that they bought the company for. And so that first league class has been settled. That money is going to be distributed. I'm actually in that class. My son's actually in that class. So there will be some money distributed to 1,100 fighters this summer from that. Wow. Of 375 or $380 million. So I'm hoping that, you know, the Muhammad Ali Act gets amended to not just protect boxers from promoters, but protect all of us combative sport athletes. HR 44 spoke in Congress a few years back. We've been trying to get that on the floor to be voted and change and amend that boxing legislation. We've been lobbied against very, very hard by the UFC. They've spent millions of dollars to keep that from getting voted. And don't think that Donald Trump and and Dana's relationship don't play into that equation. They absolutely do. But that being said, we still didn't get it while Biden was in office. We maybe had a window, but they lobbied very, very well, got us thrown out of energy and commerce into education. The original act was passed in energy and commerce, not education. So why did that happen? The lobbyists were doing their job. They've been stonewalling us every chance they could to get that HR 44 passed and get it down to the Congress and the Senate to vote and get it passed. And then would Trump veto that?
Well, and it's interesting because you don't have to look very
question.
It is. I mean, because you don't have to look very far, because honestly, I think that some of that applies to our sport. I mean, that's why, we're in our infancy with our events. Like, we just had our first series. We've been doing drag races of our own since, like I said, 2017. So we're making some progress. But a lot of the driving force behind what we were doing is doing our level best to make sure these drivers are getting paid what they should. Most of the time they were hauling across the country, spending $10,000, $15,000 on diesel fuel, flying crew chiefs in, flying crew guys in, and not to mention the $500,000 or $1 million race car operation they have. Right. And they're going out and they're racing for peanuts, racing for $5,000 or racing for $2,500. And we felt strongly that someone's got to start the movement, because my belief was we were never going to be taken seriously by the ESPNs and the Fox Sports and all that stuff as long as the numbers were so small. I was having conversations with very accomplished world championship drag racers who were afraid to tell their peers what they competed for. Because, I think Rory McIlroy winning the Masters this past weekend won $4.5 million. He showed up with a golf bag. And obviously there's a big business there, and I'm not trying to detract from it. But if you look at drag racing, you got guys towing all over creation, spending millions of dollars to race for a fraction of that. And I don't know that we'll ever, I don't know how soon we right the ship, but if we can at least demonstrate that we're working towards making sure these drivers and everybody involved is compensated at the level to which they should be. That's keeps me up at night, because I'm going, these guys and gals are risking their lives to entertain, the masses and help us sell tickets. There's got to be something in it for them. And it may be, it may take me years and years and years, but that's definitely the vision, is to make sure that if you call yourself a professional drag racer, I want the spoils to come with it. I don't want you to have to work another job. I don't want you to have to be a firefighter or run a small business, to support your hobby. And that's most assuredly the case here in 2025. But we're turning the corner as a sport. And I appreciate your insight, because, if you look at the sports that are growing, they're the ones that share the wealth, in my opinion, that they're taking care of their athletes.
And you just added a whole nother layer of purpose as far as I'm concerned. Why did I get into fighting in the first place? Well, I had never been, I've been in 2 street fights my whole, and those were in school. They needed legitimacy in mixed martial arts. No holds barred is what it was called back then. Huge backlash from the boxing world through Senator McCain to get the sport erased, because it was challenging boxing in pay-per-view numbers.
Well, and that was the human cockfighting thing, right?
Like me and Mark Coleman and us guys that actually competed in a legitimate Olympic sport to in some ways create a face and legitimacy. As much as I like Tank Abbott, getting off the bar stool and knocking somebody out wasn't really the marketing tool that we needed to legitimize this sport. They already thought we were human cockfighting, and that this was the gladiator games, 2 men enter, one man leaves type of a situation, which is nothing further from the truth. It's kinetic chess in real time with a resisting opponent. There's no anger or animosity involved. And so you're just informing me, educating me, if you will, about pro mod and about drag racing and the state of drag racing. Well, is there anything more Americana than drag racing? It's amazing. And just like our bike culture in this country after World War II, same thing with drag racing. That's what all those soldiers that came home from those wars wanted to do, was spend their money on their cool car or that cool bike, the chopper and all that stuff. So there's this parallel universe where that came from, and where those guys. And why did I get into hot rods? Because that was what my dad was into. He was a Bay of Pigs era Navy guy, and he was into trucks and fixing and doing all his own stuff. Learning what top dead center was and all this other stuff. That was, as a kid,
That was the conversation.
That was absolutely where I was at. So, I had a Ford Falcon that I inherited from a divorce that I tricked out and welded ladder bars for. And like I said, when I graduated high school, I had 9 speeding tickets. I lost my license for 3 months.
Maybe this was meant to be. You had 2 schoolyard fights, but 9 speeding tickets. So maybe if any of those things, track the same way, hell, man, you'll be a world champion drag racer in no time flat. It is an interesting thing, because I say that a lot of time on this very show, that we, men and women came home from World War II, and you're right. They had a little bit of jingle in their pocket. They had a skill that they could probably apply and earn a living. And every hot, free cent they had was for a hot rod car or a motorcycle. And this is, it's Chevrolet and apple pie and baseball. Drag racing to me is the great American motorsport. And I feel like for me, it's challenging sometimes, because I can get discouraged. Like, damn it, why aren't we further along? But it's also exciting to be walking around on such fertile soil. Like, there's so much room for us to grow. There's so much opportunity. And especially for a sport that's been around and organized as long as ours has, I just feel like the sky is the limit. And as we bring more people that cross over from other sports and other walks of life, that's when the magic is really going to start happening, in my opinion. And it takes people such as yourself that have a great story and are great communicators, because I always say it's physical impossibility for someone to develop like a physical, an emotional attachment to a car, especially from afar. Like, most of the fans in the stands are so far removed from driving a car that'll run 200 or 300 miles an hour. They're never going to experience that, if we're being frank, right? Like, they're never going to do that. They're never going to share that experience, but they can find out that your dad was in the Navy. Well, so was theirs. You know what I mean? Or you're a former UFC fighter, and that's how you get hooks in these people. The competition, the sights, the sounds, it will bring people out once or twice. But what will make them a lifelong fan is falling in love with an athlete, with a driver, developing an emotional connection to one of these guys or gals behind the wheel. And I really think that you could be and I'm not trying to like put pressure on you, Randy, but it's like, it could be this could change everything. It really could. These things happen fast. And I really feel like your involvement specifically in pro modified drag racing could be something that we are looking back as a jumping off point for many, many years to come, man. I think people are going to see this as a turning point. And man, I appreciate it. I didn't mean to keep you this long. I appreciate you chatting with me.
Congratulations to Tony Stewart for winning that race yesterday here in Vegas. That was amazing. I was down there, obviously with Randy from Skag, and the place was electric when he won that race. So pretty cool.
Pretty amazing moment, man. And you've got a great group there. Skag, the Skag team, from the Pro Stock team with Erica Enders and Jed Coughlin Jr. to Justin Ashley, who is an absolute world beater that's just a frog's hair away from a world championship. Tim Wilkerson and Dan Wilkerson, father-son duo, and their funny car. Like, Randy has really put together an incredible group of talent, a incredible group of people. And I think that you're going to be a perfect fit there, man. I really am excited to see how this unfolds. And I hope you'll keep us posted, because whenever you let off that button, I'm going to be there. I promise.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Randy. You stay out of trouble, and I guess I'll call Ben back.
That sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Randy. We'll talk soon, brother.
Take care, man. Be well.
Well, how cool was that? I mean, like, does it get any cooler than that? I was literally sitting here thinking, like, I don't know that I ever thought we'd be interviewing Randy Couture.
It's funny how that stuff works, man. I mean, it's crazy, and how quickly it came about too. And it sounds like it's still very fresh to Randy as well. And he's, you could see him kind of lighting up throughout your interview there you kind of educated on some of the things that we're, really supportive of here at Drag Illustrated, and things that the sport is looking for as it continues to grow and evolve.
I'm stoked about it, man. I do think there's clearly like a lot of stuff that's like kind of still being figured out, right? But I tell you what, man, I can sense the guy's excitement. Like, talking to him off air, I think during that interview, this is a genuine thing. I don't think this is he has for whatever reason, he has decided he's going to do this. And I know how that works with certain people. When that decision is made, that decision is made. And I think that he is literally going to do his level best to go out and make a dent out here. And I'm genuinely excited to see how it all plays out, because can you guys imagine rolling into the Snowbird Outlaw Nationals next year and seeing Erica Enders lining up against Antron Brown, lining up against Lyle Barnett, lining up against Stevie Jackson, lining up against Mark Mickey, lining up against Randy Couture, lining up against, I mean, it's an incredible thing to think about. And again, you know, for all the hell that I seem to take for being so fixated on Pro Mod, it's just the vehicle. It really is. Like, I'm obviously passionate about it, but it's cars that still look like cars, driven by cowboys and cowgirls. We have a unique parity situation, Mike, that you're largely responsible for, you and John Sears, and you know, creating a rule set that puts all these cars on a level playing field, and all the different disciplines can go out there and do well. It doesn't matter if you're kind of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, or if you're kind of a boxer, or if you're a really good wrestler. In our ring, which is the Outlaw 8th Mile, you've all got a shot at it. You've all got a shot at winning this deal. And I can't wait to see, because I really believe it could be a jumping off point for us. All we need is a few of these people to give our sport a chance and experience
I think we're there. I mean,
community.
We're seeing it.
Yeah.
We're seeing it more and more. I mean, this ball has kind of been rolling for a few years now, and having things like the Winter Series doesn't hurt, and just the overall health of pro mod racing. I mean, we've talked about the international scene a few weeks ago, and looking at all of that, it's strong across the board, and I think this ball's been rolling. I mean, you mentioned all those names: Eric Enders, Antron Brown, Kai Kelly, and then now we saw Travis Pastrana dip his toe in with a Top Fuel car, and it just seems like, you know, at first it was shocking to see this from Randy Couture, just like out of nowhere, crazy news. But then the more you think about it, and especially knowing what we know and the things we've worked toward, I'm not trying to take all the glory here for ourselves, but I do believe that our mission is a big part of this. It starts to make a little more sense. And I think we could start to see more things like this happen. Like, don't be surprised when the next big name from some other mainstream sport pops their hat in the ring in Pro Mod or any of these other door car classes that are out there.
We need like 10 cars in a stable here that we can just put people
I'm
in.
working on it, boss.
Get them hooked. Get them hooked, and then
my goal,
maybe everybody go out and buy a Powerball tonight.
Yes, everybody watching, go buy a Powerball ticket. We could sure use
we'll pull
the help
it together. Well, how about we just put in like a parlay, JT? Let's put in like a home run parlay or something, and we'll split the winnings, and buy a stable of Pro Mods.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, that's part of my goal. I look at Feld Entertainment and what they've done with Monster Jam, and I study that business model a lot. And you look at what it's an incredible thing.
There's a lot of those models. That's a great model with just the UFC itself. We've talked about Street Outlaws and what they've done, this momentum, this kind of thing. And then now I even think we're seeing more of it at NHRA. Every month I get a copy of National Dragster. I believe it's got a human being on the cover now, more so than a car. At least it's got maybe an inset of a winter circle.
It almost looks like a Drag Illustrated magazine at this point.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far, JT. But yeah, you're onto something there. But that's not. But even in their coverage, we've talked about they're changing coverage that they're doing on Fox and on the NHRA TV. I think that this is a groundswell movement that we're seeing. Yeah, Courtney bringing in all these personalities that are even from. Like, I would consider Courtney like a media person or someone that has built her name off the track, bringing in more people like that. So we're seeing this across the board, whether you're at the forefront of it or just now getting on board. I think that we're seeing this kind of everyone moving in the same direction.
I agree, man. And the fact that Pro Mod, I've had a lot of people call or shoot me texts asking like, you know, why Pro Mod? And I said, why wouldn't you race Pro Mod? If you were coming into this sport, that's where the opportunity is right now. And that's where the action is right now. There's no doubt. And these things change, ebb and flow, and things evolve. But I feel Pro Mod has the staying power. It has the inventory to maintain kind of like that hot topic status for a long, long time. And you start getting guys like this to come into the sport and recognize that they don't if they want to go drag racing at a high level, they don't necessarily have to spend $5 million to do it. You know, and that has kind of been the story of the last several decades, that if you wanted to come into the highest level of drag racing and be a part of the conversation or whatever, or be one of the guys, you were going to need to buy a Top Fuel operation or a funny car operation. And you were going to need to spend several $1 million, and you're going to need to pay a crew chief $500,000 a year. And it's a big bite. I mean, even the most well-off people in the world, that's a big bite, right? But if you can come into Pro Mod and spend a fraction of that and achieve something very similar, I mean, are the cars slower? Yeah, they don't run 300 miles an hour. But honestly, I mean, they don't need to. They really don't need to. And that's not what this deal is all about. It's about side-by-side competition. It's about that kinetic chess that Randy was mentioning a moment ago, but I think it's a fantastic thing for the sport.
Have you heard that term before?
I've never heard that before.
I didn't know if that was like a UFC thing, if that's like a common term that they use. Kinetic chess against what do you say? An opponent, a resisting opponent.
A resisting opponent.
That was the nicest way ever to put it. I'm like, man, if I'm in there getting my ass kicked in UFC, that's the last thing I'm thinking about.
No, and there's gonna be anger and animosity
in the freaking nose.
There'd be a whole lot of anger and animosity, right? But no, I just think that this is a great thing for our sport, and I'm genuinely excited about it. And I'm just feeling lucky that it's happening like right now, like during the prime of all this, because there's bigger opportunity out here for our entire sport across the board, because all these things, like a high tide lifts all boats. You know, we start bringing in these big name stars from other walks of life and creating like a kind of clear transition from, you know, a really physical sport like mixed martial arts or even professional stick and ball sports. I mean, look at Fletcher Cox. I mean, I don't think I would not be surprised to see him in a car.
Yeah, driving get in a car
in the very near future. I think now that he's retired from the NFL,
he looks like he's shed a bunch of weight.
Coming back and kicking doors down when he comes.
And I'm telling you, man, you start a couple of those dominoes fall and it becomes a fashionable thing to do. And there's a lot of buzz around it. And there's a lot of excitement. I mean, we know what going to the drag races is, you know what I mean? Like it's a great time. It's a great environment. It's a great group of people. And I think if we can introduce some of these big influential folks to our sport and bring them into this community and welcome them with open arms and let them be a part of it, they're going to want to stay a part of it and they're going to want to bring their friends. And that is a great thing for the entire sport of drag racing, man. So anyways, what a show, guys. I appreciate it. We covered a lot of ground today. There's a ton of drag racing going on. Our next stop here for Drag Illustrated will be the PDRA Mid-Atlantic Showdown going on at Virginia Motorsports Park in a few short weeks.
Before that, we've got Charlotte next weekend.
Oh, we've got NHRA Charlotte next weekend.
Pro Mod, Pro Stock, the full rundown of classes there. So I'll be out there. We're gonna have Rick Belden out there shooting photos, doing our normal deal, hanging out with the Top End Club folks, having peanut butter and jelly. Wes, we'll send you a picture.
Send me a pic. Tell those guys I miss them.
You know, get some of the essence through the photo.
I hate to miss it, man. But it's been turning and burning here lately. I've been on the road. It was planes, trains, and automobiles last week. I literally was on a train. I was in a plane and drove, from Texas to Oklahoma. It's been nonstop
what were you on a
action.
Train for?
Well, I actually found that there's a train that runs from downtown Fort Worth to downtown Dallas. So it's like a really quick trip, and it's $4. So Max and I, when we went to the Lakers game last Wednesday night, we just jumped on the train in Fort Worth, drove 20 minutes to downtown Fort Worth, jumped on the train, and we were at American Airlines Center in 40 minutes or something like that, and didn't have to deal with traffic, didn't have to park, didn't have to fight that battle. And it was actually pretty badass. I think that's how I'll go from here on out.
We've got that. They got the one in Charlotte called the light rail.
I jumped on a train.
Well, you don't really want to be on the Charlotte light rail. Really, it's good for sporting events, but anytime other than that or late at night, you don't want to be on it.
No.
Yeah, I could. When we went home, I got to tell you, I've never felt unsafe, and I wouldn't have brought Max if I did, but it was actually really nice. Pretty much everybody on the train was going to the Mavs game. Pretty much everybody was wearing a jersey or some sort of deal.
We missed our Drink Hard Racing folks in the Charlotte. Shout out for next week. We'll be going between the Top End Club to DHR. So JT,
you're gonna have fun. John Sears reminding us that Bill Hoskinson's plates in 28s, April 24th through 27 at Edgewater Sports Park. I actually got to see Bill at Bill Hoskin, and the old man himself was out there at Yellow Belly last week. It was great to see him. I saw so many people. I couldn't really believe how many people were there.
How many plates in 28s events do they have in a season?
I think just the one.
Has it been a year since we talked to Bill and had him on the show before their last one? It was not. It had to be in the fall.
John will tell us.
There's got to be
John Sears will tell us in the comments here. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, you know, and I am planning on going to the War in the Woods. I see the Hobby Cave THC Racing talking about Brown County. I really am looking forward to going to War in the Woods. I think I'm going to go try to go to that event with Jimmy Dale. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Dana Turner asking about my pops. I appreciate it. Still fighting an uphill battle, unfortunately. Tough deal. I appreciate you, everybody that sent their well wishes and prayers and thoughts and concerns. I appreciate it a bunch, man. I had a whole bunch of my drag racing buddies send him happy birthday videos from PDRA last weekend, and that was awesome. And I think it kind of perked him up a little bit. But got a tough road to hoe ahead of him here. So I think
we need to make sure that Jeanette is parked like as so far away from the track as possible,
right across from the Porta Johns. Maybe with
this didn't help. Yeah, that didn't help. JT got a face for radio. I think you're rather handsome, JT. Don't let him get to you. Well, somebody was saying that we had a speech impediment in the comments earlier. People are rough on the internet.
That's how rough the Masters were, man. He came back with speech impediment and damn getting ragged on.
Oh, dude.
Oh, man. What a deal. Well, hey, guys, thank you so much. Remember to like and subscribe, join the movement, be a part of what we're doing here at Drag Illustrated and all this awesome stuff that's happening across the sport of drag racing. Congratulations to all the winners this past weekend from the Midwest Drag Racing Series season opener, as well as the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals out there at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It was fantastic to see Tony Stewart secure his first win in Top Fuel competition, a huge moment for the sport of drag racing, a huge moment for him as a competitor, and I think continuing to cement his name as one of the greatest race car drivers in the history of the known universe. Shout out to our boy Spencer Hyde, 2023 World Series of Pro Mod champ, had a really strong showing in Nitro Funny Car, won the Mission Food Challenge. Fantastic to see him having some early success, and I think that's going to set him up for a whale of a 2025. Man, so much good happening in the sport of drag racing. KB Titan Racing continuing their dominance in pro stock right now, giving us a lot of content, man. This whole storyline, it's been the battle of the red and the blue for what seems like a decade now. It's either Elite Motorsports or KB Titan in the winner's circle. KB is certainly making their presence felt right now, and I'm excited to see how this story kind of plays out through the rest of the season, because it's going to get juicy, man. You know that Elite Motorsports, that whole camp, you know, from Richard Freeman on down, everybody, all those drivers, Troy Coughlin Jr., Jaggy Coughlin, Aaron Stanfield, Erica Enders. I mean, these people are not going to lay down or give up anytime soon, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
I think Richard said over the weekend in one of his interviews, we've got the whole month of May off, which I have to check the schedule to confirm that, but I'm sure they're going to go to work during that month off, and it'll definitely get interesting as the year winds down. You love to see the back and forth, and it takes something like this for that competition to rise up to the next level, and it continues that pendulum swing. So lots of stuff going on, man, for sure. And I also wanted to mention Big Dog tomorrow night. I think they're having their season opener. Was supposed to be last weekend or last Thursday, but due to weather, moved to tomorrow night. So, man, just especially right here in the Carolinas, we are cranking here in the months of March and April.
It's wild, man. There's a whole lot of drag racing going on. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us, helping us spread the gospel of drag racing. We'll see you at the racetrack, and if not, we'll see you next Wednesday right here on the Drag Illustrated YouTube channel. Wednesdays, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Appreciate y'all.
See ya.